You've heard it time and time and time again from all of your favorite content creators and really just media figures in general. Do not pre-order games. And yet, at the risk of sounding like some sort of corporate shill, I just have to ask, do the people saying this really think or use their brain when they actually say it? Welcome to today's video where we're talking about a bit of an odd topic, so I know the video will underperform, but so be it. And that topic is the idea of pre-ordering, or more specifically, not pre-ordering games. There's been a huge movement going around for a good while now when it comes to not pre-ordering games, and as time goes on, I have to start to wonder how much of a difference this is really making, as well as the fact that, well, people want to play new games. I think the entire idea and philosophy that these people are probably not thinking too hard about when it comes to not pre-ordering games is extremely flawed, and so I wanted to talk about it. I'm going to split this up into a few sections, and the first section that we're going to be starting off with is refunds. In the age of modern gaming, a lot of people are no longer buying physical copies, with PC physical copies basically no longer existing, and console physical copies being phased out more and more year by year. Because of that, these online storefronts that you're able to buy games from basically all have some sort of refund policy. Whether you're buying something from the Microsoft Store, the PlayStation Store, Steam, or any of these stupid other non-Steam-like programs on PC, just about every single one of them has some sort of refund policy. And those that don't are extremely shady and have been consistently shamed by consumers for good reason. I bring up the refund policy because none of these abilities to request a refund are very difficult to do, and this applies even more so on Steam than any other platform in my experience. Getting a refund on Steam is not hard whatsoever, and I've had several instances of games where I was over the hour limit that you're supposed to have for Steam games to be refundable, and Steam refunded me anyway, because obviously some things can come up and some games can try to waste your time in order to make sure that you don't hit that refund window. The other thing to consider is that when these games come out that have absolutely disastrous launches, it's not like the publishers and these online storefronts don't know about it. Oh boy, yes they do. Whether it be No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk, or most recently the Battlefront Classic Collection, believe me, these storefronts know what's up, and you can see numerous examples of them handing out refunds like hotcakes. Basically what I'm trying to say here is while people are constantly and consistently saying, don't pre-order games, it's almost as if they've completely forgotten the fact that if you do pre-order a game and then play it via an online storefront, and then you don't like it, then you can just refund the game. The next section of the video is talking about purchasing day one versus pre-ordering. This is another one that just sort of baffles and breaks my brain because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yes, you are fully capable of deciding to wait until reviews come out to buy a game. That is 100% true. And as a consumer, that might technically be the correct option. But at the end of the day, people want to play new games when they come out. That doesn't seem like a very far-fetched argument to make. Never mind the fact that since a lot of games that come out today have multiplayer components as their main function, if there's nobody who pre-ordered or bought these games in order to play them and fill the servers, then how are you even going to play the game to begin with? If nobody buys the game because everyone's afraid of don't pre-order, then how do you play? And so that then begs the question, people are so unbelievably anti-pre-order, but what difference would it make if you bought the game the day that it came out or the day after versus just, pre-ordering the game? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand, and I don't think people think about it. I think they just parrot what they've seen over and over again, thinking that it's going to make some sort of meaningful results when it isn't. And it circles back to the thing that I was talking about just a second ago, which is whether or not you pre-order the game, buy it day one, or buy it 3 weeks later, it's not going to change the fact that you can simply refund the game if the game isn't any good or you don't like it. And obviously I'm not making any arguments when it comes to pre-orders potentially voiding the refund process, but in my experience, that's just not the case. Now here's the part where we talk about the bottom line, the money involved, and how much of an impact that not pre-ordering a game versus pre-ordering it versus refunding it is going to make overall. And this is pretty much all speculation, as there's a lot of numbers involved here, as well as money constantly changing hands, whether it be you paying Microsoft in order to buy a game, who then has to pay out that money to the publisher, and then that money gets funneled down to the developers. It's all a whole bunch of economic stuff that obviously I'm not going to get huge into. But the thing that I want to focus on is just how important are pre-orders really when it comes to whether or not games succeed or fail, especially in the eyes of companies and investors. The fact of the matter is, obviously, a company is going to want you to buy a game before you've played it, so that way they have the money straight away. The way that investment-based corporations work is that they thrive off of the short term and then fall apart massively when it comes to the long term. That being said, one of the biggest indicators of whether or not a game succeeds or fails in the long term is how it launches and how well it's received. Something that, if anything, is more negatively impacted by a lot of people buying it at launch and then refunding it, rather than nobody buying it at launch and then buying it later. There are black marks in gaming that no matter what you do, you are going to have an incredibly difficult, if not impossible, time clearing from your name. Two games that immediately come to mind for me are Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA 2017 and Battlefield 2042. These games are absolutely notorious. And you know what? A shitload of people pre-ordered these games, and a shitload of people refunded these games. And because of that, both these games have black marks on their reputation that Battlefront 2 got relatively close to clearing, but still didn't quite get there, and 2042 just flat out never cleared, with people still complaining about it to this very day. And so the thing that I think people really need to be considering here is the fact that whether you've pre-ordered a game or not, whether you've bought it day one or not, regardless, if the launch is an absolute disaster to the point that it's basically a spectacle at this point, do we really think that the disasters would have gotten to the scale that they did if a lot of people weren't playing the game in that broken state? I don't want people to think that I'm advocating for wasting your money in order to emphasize outrage, but I don't really know any other way to put this. If tons of people hadn't been excited for and bought Battlefront 2, then there wouldn't have been controversy, and the loot box fiasco might have flown under the radar. I'm sure it's an extremely hot take, but I think gaming as a whole is probably better off because a whole bunch of people pre-ordered and bought the game at launch. Thankfully, a lot of those people, I'm sure, refunded their games. So hopefully, we'd end up at a net positive here. Well, ignoring the fact of the horrendous game launch and microtransactions. So that's my little spiel about pre-ordering games. I think I'm just sort of tired of hearing this point made over and over and over again without the backing of it really making any sense. And I think it makes even less sense to try to shame people for buying a game and basically testing it for them. Because for the people who are preaching don't pre-order, those are usually the community figureheads who are buying the game on day one anyway, so there's always going to be a little bit of hypocrisy there, basically no matter what you do. But I think at the end of the day, you just shouldn't be shamed for pre-ordering a game, especially considering the fact that you can just refund the game after you've bought it. That's probably the biggest one here. It's like people just forgot the fact that all of these online storefronts have in-depth refund policies that let you go, this game is broken and doesn't work, give me my money back, and they just give you your money back. I don't know. It just feels like there's so many things currently in gaming that people could be more upset about or make more of an effort to make a movement that they just sort of don't, and yet this becomes a constant. Where is our don't buy microtransactions thing? Where's that? Because I barely ever see that. People talk about how good or bad the microtransactions are, but shaming people for paying a shitload of money for microtransactions, I mean, sure, maybe it's a bit of a given, but it's not nearly on the same level as pre-order shame, and it just doesn't make sense because that's arguably infinitely worse for gaming, something that has a significantly harsher refund policy most of the time, and I think you're starting to see my point here. There's plenty of hills to die on, and I just don't understand the pre-order one whatsoever. Anyways, I'll be interested to know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm sure there will be at least one or two extremely anti-pre-order people that will be able to give me their perspective on this, so that way I'm not living in an echo chamber. But regardless, this is a hot take that I've had for a while, and I just wanted to get it off my chest because it doesn't make very much sense to me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you found it informative, you agree with me or don't, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, you can leave a dislike and not do any of those things. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.